Consultation Podcast Network.
Klaatu, Veranda.
Blood and Black Rum Podcast presents Remakeoween.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Blood and Black Rum Podcast. I'm Ryan from cultsploitation.com, and I'm joined with my co-host Martin.
How's it going?
And we're back with a new episode of our Remakeoween series, because we're now into October. Happy October 3rd for those of you who are listening within this week when this episode releases, because October 3rd, as we're recording, was yesterday for us. And you know what that means? One of our favorite movies.
Mean Girls.
Mean Girls. Very, very fun.
I love that movie.
I do too. If you had seen on,
and I'm not ashamed of it. There's some people.
No, I'm not ashamed of it either.
Who give me crap over that. It's like you just don't understand.
I saw it in theaters. Wasn't ashamed of it when I saw it in theaters. I'm not ashamed to quote things like canoodling.
Oh, that's like that's literally probably the best line in the entire film.
Mm-hmm.
That and Tim Meadows as
Tim Meadows as all the time
is a delight.
The best. So, did you see they reunited to raise some money?
Who Tim Meadows?
All of the Mean Girls, like
Lindsay
Lohan and
Lacey Chabert.
Yep. They all and Rachel McAdams. They all apparently they reunited to help raise some money and stuff. So that's nice. Yeah, but I mean, if you had seen on Cultsploitation, I did write an article for those Halloween movies that aren't horror movies really, but they do take place around Halloween. Mean Girls is part of that.
It takes over over the whole school year, so it's a
yeah, it does. So it's almost like an all seasonal.
You could use it for any holiday.
Absolutely,
do it for Christmas, Arbor Day,
yeah, Valentine's Day,
yeah,
anytime. But enough about Mean Girls. This episode isn't about Mean Girls, although we may do it at some point in the future. We talked about that a little bit. This episode for Remakeoween is on Evil Dead, which is the 2013 pseudo remake of The Evil Dead.
Soft reboot.
Yep. And that article, is important because we're talking about The Evil Dead from the original Sam Raimi's film, and this one is simply Evil Dead. So a little bit of a
I never noticed that.
I never did really either until I looked like closely into it, because I feel like a lot of the times I would just call this remake The Evil Dead. You know, the Evil Dead. I would add that article on there. But looking more into it, it is very specifically Evil Dead.
I mean, to be fair, it's like with Rambo movies. Does anyone really call First Blood?
Yeah.
First Blood.
Not really. It's just pretty much widely known as Rambo. Yeah. I think that's the same way. You know, and even with like the Evil Dead, some people just call it Evil Dead. Some people call it The Evil Dead. You know, the original. For me, it's kind of interesting because I am interested in the grammatical decisions and choices of someone, and the this was, but from Fede Alvarez, this had to have been an intentional choice to include it as Evil Dead rather than The Evil Dead. So I think grammatically standing, I think The Evil Dead, it makes more sense because it's talking about the actual demon, you know, the actual presence, right? Where if it's just Evil Dead, it's kind of more like, what are they talking about? Yeah, more like of a generic thing, rather than calling attention to the specifics of the movie. I don't know. I just find it a little interesting because it does seem intentional. It's very clearly in the credits, and then later on at the end credits for Evil Dead, it does list based on the film The Evil Dead. So I think, and probably part of it was just to kind of help differentiate. You know, when you have two movies named the same, sometimes they get lost. You like, let's say, especially if this film didn't do very well,
Well, Evil
and
Dead
it was going to be sitting.
The sequel to The Evil Dead is Evil Dead 2.
Right.
It's not The Evil Dead 2.
Maybe they were just, I don't know, they were just like kind of combining the two. So it's not The Evil Dead, it's not Evil Dead 2, it's Evil Dead. I don't know. Not that
it's like getting into like Final Fantasy.
Yeah, there's no point to it, no rhyme or reason. Doesn't really matter and doesn't play into the film at all in the scheme of things. But just something I would like to point out. Now you can be a real like perfectionist asshole, and when someone says, "Yeah, I really like that remake, The Evil Dead," you'd be like, "No, you really liked it? You did because you just said the name wrong." That's. Oh, however, it does matter to me a little bit because, like, things this is really like I don't know why it matters to me, but so like the seasonal Christmas classic with Will Ferrell, Elf. If someone were to refer to it as The Elf,
that's different. Nobody calls it The
You're
Elf.
fucking wrong.
Nobody calls it The Elf.
I have heard someone call it The Elf. I have heard, and I kind of stood there discombobulated. I was like, what? The Elf? the perfect seasonal Christmas classic? The Elf? Just, I don't know. It happens.
Nobody's like, have you seen The Frosty the Snowman? Have you seen The Santa Claus Comes to Town?
Who would say The Frosty the Snowman? That's his name. No one puts a the in front. Have you seen the? Well, I guess they do, but they would say the Frosty the Snow. You know how you like kind of pronounce the end of it, like the esteemed Reverend Al Sharpton. That would be something else, I guess. But saying the Frosty the Snowman would just be plain old wrong. The Jack Frost.
That's a timeless Christmas classic right there.
Michael Keaton becoming a killer snowman.
He ran out of that Batman money real quick.
All right. I guess that's enough about getting just lost in grammatical issues. But
if we wanted to be super going off of like being perfectionist assholes, we could have been super perfectionist assholes and thrown a curveball and done Evil Dead 2.
Oh, as the remake, be like, whoa, where are they going here? Yeah. And we can talk about that a little bit. Is that do you consider Evil Dead 2 a remake to The Evil Dead?
It's a sequel, but it's also a remake.
I think that
it's literally the same premise. Everything's basically the same, except it's like still going on like the next day. So it's
I think it's
I wouldn't call it like a remake or a soft reboot or anything, but I could understand why some people would be like
I definitely think it's fun to have the Evil Dead and then see Evil Dead 2. And I really wouldn't mind like other people doing that as like remakes of just or as sequels of just being like, I didn't really love where the last one went. So let's like redo the whole thing, but we'll do it a little bit differently this time. I think it's kind of interesting. You're like caught in the Groundhog Day of sorts. Like they come back with another Evil Dead and be like, this one is going to be like Evil Dead 2, except we didn't really like what we did in that one. So we're going to do it a little bit differently again. It's kind of a fun situation. I think The Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2 are kind of unique in that sense of like just, hey, it's the same plot, but we'll change up a little bit and get gorier.
It's an honest horror movie.
Right.
Because if you think about it, like when you think about like, like Friday the 13th and like Nightmare and even like the Scream movies, it's literally basically the same plot, killer, like,
Mm-hmm.
Except now there's like maybe some different characters and some things are different, but if you broke it down to like the very bare bones and structure of the story and kind of how things, flow and we're all the same.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree.
I mean, they're different enough to where they're not obviously remakes and, wouldn't obviously pass as remakes, but
they're basically repeating the same
if you're being like, as generic as possible. Then you could
basically it's like
at least with Evil Dead 2, it's like, look, we're gonna do the same thing again.
Yeah,
it's just gonna be campier
because that one makes it a lot more clear that it's the same thing. Then rather than having like a slasher film that's really just set in a different area or with different characters, This one is very clearly in the same area, same characters, same overall storyline. So interesting. I love that. No, but we're doing Evil Dead, which is a remake that I saw in theaters and you did as well.
Yep.
I
can't believe it's been 4 years.
Yeah, I can't believe it either. I was cautiously, I guess I wouldn't even say optimistic, because I don't think I was. I think when I went out to see it, I was expecting it to not be really that great. And so I will admit, when I first saw it might have put me in a sort of bias where I was already predisposed to not like it, to say like, well, it's not as good as Evil Dead, the Evil Dead, so I'm not really interested. So I remember doing a review for it like a long time ago, 4 years ago, and I think I gave it a pretty, I guess I would say a mediocre review. Like, I didn't trash it, but I definitely brought up a lot of the issues that I had with it. And upon watching again this time, I think I still have a lot of the same issues with it. But I think this time, watching with the Halloween spirit, with the orange lights up, atmosphere around me, I did have a little bit more fun with it this time than I did the first time, where I kind of was really put off by everything. How about you? Because I know you were of the mindset more that you kind of enjoyed it when you saw it in theaters.
Yeah, from what I remember, when I went to go see it, I didn't have any expectation for the film. I didn't think it was going to be good. But that's just kind of how, as we've said 1,000 times before on the podcast, it's kind of the how I feel overall when it comes to remakes. I don't ever have high hopes going in.
You're kind of more like
very cautious.
Yeah, and like hoping that it's going to be good, but ready for it to not be.
It's more, it's more of like, hey, I don't think it's going to be good. If it is, I'll be pleasantly surprised and like, didn't expect that. Like when we got the next month, remake of Death Wish is coming out. I have, especially now that I saw the trailer for it, I have absolutely no... I'm going to go see it, unfortunately. But I mean, I have absolutely no reason to believe that it's going to be good at all. But going into Evil Dead, I saw the trailer. I'm like, it looks like just a typical horror film. Doesn't look like it's going to do anything to make itself different, stand out. So I didn't really have any expectation to it. But after I got done seeing it in theater, I was pleasantly surprised and actually kind of walked out, like, hey, that's one of the better remakes that I've seen in like the past decade of like not just horror films, but in general. I'm like, I was pleasantly surprised with it. I don't know if I feel that way as much now, but it's kind of hard to put into words.
Well, you're gonna have to, because we're on a podcast. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I'm going to, but I don't want to blow my load here.
That's right.
You want me to just in the
No,
end?
I don't actually, because we're coming up on a break anyway. So,
well, maybe it won't even be a break. It'll just be we're done.
Just go. Yeah, that's it. 15-minute episode, in and out. Happy Halloween. No, we'll be back shortly with a new beer that we've got on the show today. So stay with us, and then we'll talk about Evil Dead 2013. Do you like cult films? When you think about action, horror, grindhouse, exploitation, do you wish that you could read from somebody who actually loves those genres? Well, then you're looking for cultsploitation.com, a genre website that features reviews, new releases from Severin Films, Synapse Films, Blue Underground, etc., and also articles about cult films in general, with yours truly, Ryan from Blood and Black Rum Podcast, and also a column from Martin from Blood and Black Rum Podcast. With a cult actor database, new release schedules, and forums, you won't have to go anywhere else for your cult film needs. So check out cultsploitation.com and let us know what you think. Welcome back. We've got a new beer on the show today, one that came through the Hopsy order that I did a couple weeks ago. This is another growlette that we had, and we opened it today. And this one's from Kelso Brewing Company, which I've never had before. Apparently based out of Brooklyn, was it? I think it was Brooklyn.
Yep.
And so I've never seen this one around here at all. Must be pretty local to Brooklyn. It doesn't really get exported or anything. And this is their IPA.
I don't know if it'd be exported because it's not across state lines.
It doesn't get shipped down here. Or up here, I mean, I should say. Yeah.
Mr. English here giving us the details on
shipped
the,
up
and
here.
you're
I always say down.
and you're
I don't
using
know why.
all the wrong...
Doesn't matter where it is, I'll say down.
And
It's Canada. It's
from
Florida. It's down here.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do that, though.
It's just a yeah.
Easier.
It's just a I don't know.
Term. It's just like I got shipped down here.
Mm-hmm. They don't use down in the literal sense. It's used more in like the figurative, like
I just bought a new CD off of Barnes and Nobles, and it's coming like from Illinois, and it's probably getting shipped
down here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, this is the IPA by Kelso Brewing Company, 6%, and I would say that it's a pretty smooth IPA.
Yeah.
Interesting.
As I've said before, reviewing some of these IPAs, it's an IPA. They don't really have much to. You can maybe find more adjectives to describe it, but I mean, look,
hazy golden color, has a little bit of a head on it when you pour it out.
That's what she said.
I
mean, I'll give you my review because it'll be short and sweet. If you like an IPA, you'll like this. It tastes like most IPAs. It's hoppy, it's crisp, it's refreshing. It's also 6% alcohol, so it's
normal. There's a little bit of an alcohol taste to it.
Let's say normal for an IPA, but it's refreshing. And like a nice cool day like today. Well, not the day overall, but the night.
Yeah,
it's refreshing, crisp. Yeah,
like I said,
tastes like an IPA.
Like I said, because of a little bit higher alcohol content, it does have a slight alcoholic taste to it. But I wouldn't say that that's a bad thing. It's just more pronounced in this. But it does, it has a distinctive, very on the head IPA flavor to it. Good mix of hops. Can't say that I really pick anything out specifically. And what I'm saying is this is a generic IPA, and that makes it sound kind of like it's bad. When you say generic, people are thinking like, oh, it's bad. No, this is good. It's a good IPA because it is generic. It is what you're thinking of when you think...
Hits all the notes.
Yeah, exactly.
All the beats.
It's what you're thinking of when you think, hey, I want an IPA. Well, Kelso Brewing Company has one for you, and it's a perfectly good IPA. I would say that there's no real issues that pop out to me. So it's your standard IPA flavor. And I think that's really good because, it's almost like... how when you want something specific and maybe you don't want like the same old, but you're like, I want an IPA and I want it to be just,
an IPA.
Regular IPA. Well, then you're good to go with Kelso because they've made a really good one. And so like I was saying to Martin before the podcast, I'm like with all the IPAs, I have a hard time like distinguishing all of them. So there's no like tasting notes that I can give or anything like that because I don't really see that I have a good palate. Mine is very average to poor palate. I'm not good at tasting flavors and picking them out.
I'm sure most people are the same. The people who write reviews on Beer Advocate are just literally flipping through the pages with their eyes closed, pointing at a word and saying, that'll do for a flavor.
That's true. But I think that this has a good bitterness profile. It's not super bitter. I would not say that it has a huge...
Doesn't say the IBU on it.
No, I wouldn't say that it's very high. It's probably more middle ground. Not super bitter. Surprisingly though, it is quite cloudy. That's one thing that I noticed about it is that it's a cloudier IPA. But other than that, I like it. I enjoy it, and I think it's probably a very good standard IPA. And I would be interested in checking out Kelso's other selections because this is such a quality beer that I'd be interested in. They obviously did not get it wrong, so I'd be interested in checking out the other stuff that they make.
Yeah.
So,
though it is Oktoberfest and pretzel season.
That's true.
So that's really all I want right now. Especially like now that the nights, like now that we're in the perfect time of fall, like day 75, night's 33.
Yeah,
It's
kind of crazy.
not crazy. It's just it's normal weather, but
I did do a lot of tasting this weekend because I went to the Big E, and I had about 5 different beers from different areas there, and so
he's not talking about the wrestler, folks. He didn't go. He didn't go into Big E.
the Big E, like the New England State Fairs.
And look at you saying that like you're a fucking like local from the New England. Oh, I went to the Big E.
I am kind of a local. I lived there for 5 years, so.
The part of Massachusetts you lived in was fucking New York adjacent.
Yeah, basically.
Except the road signs were different, and they call fucking shopping carts trolleys or whatever.
It's true. I did have a few different brews. I had Peak Organics Autumn IPA, which, though they specify that it's an autumn IPA, I didn't really taste much of a difference to make it an autumn IPA.
Is it supposed to be like maltier, like a red IPA?
No, to me, it wasn't really maltier. I didn't really notice much of a difference to it.
Did it have like a reddish hue to it?
Yeah, it may have been a little reddish. Yeah. So that could have been all that there was. I did have a Sam Adams that is only available around Boston.
I did see that on your Beer Advocate app that you tried like a brick layered
Boston Brick Red. Yep.
Which is nice because an Irish Red Ale would be like a nice, nice beer for the season.
It was good. It was running close to an Oktoberfest, I would say, actually, with the malt content to it. So
I haven't had Irish Red in quite a while because it's not really a common. And even though I know Killian's is like the national Irish Red, because it's made by Anheuser-Busch, it's still like it's not bad.
Yeah.
But I would never go out of my way to buy it like 6 or 12 pack of Killian's.
Funny story, they had a special, I think it was a porter that they had from Sam Adams, limited time only. Mm-hmm. So I got in line and I was up there and I said, hey, I'll take that. I can't remember what it was called. And I saw it on the sign, and I'm like, hey, do you still have any of that? And just as I ordered it, they were fucking taking the sign down. So I was a little upset. But then I ended up getting the Boston Brick Red because I saw that was also an exclusive that you can't really get many other places. So I wanted to try that because I know I'll never get a chance to unless I go to Boston and actually seek it out. So I had to try that. So it wasn't all bad. But I was disappointed that I didn't get to try the limited edition one that had apparently just sold out moments ago, unfortunately. I tried Trinity Oktoberfest, which I believe is from Rhode Island. I've only had, I think, one other Rhode Island beer, and that was Night Swimmer. So I tried Trinity Oktoberfest. It's a very good Oktoberfest. I tried...
You should have just called it Night Swimming, because this is the 25th anniversary of REM's Automatic for the People. Yeah.
And I tried a couple other, too, that were also very good. So, all in all, a very good weekend for me, because I did a lot of beer drinking.
I worked.
Probably spent a lot of money.
I worked. I'm the American hero. I work on the weekends.
Yeah.
I don't go gallivanting out into the fucking New England countryside.
I haven't been home in many weekends.
I know. Ooh,
very tiring. All right. Anything else from you? You had a new one just the other day.
Yeah, Miller Lite.
The other new one that you had.
What? Oh,
you know what I'm talking about.
No, I forgot about it. I didn't think it was really worth mentioning because I could barely taste it. But I had Goose Island, which I'm not the biggest Goose Island fan to begin with. I haven't had much, but what I have had, I just thought it was kind of all right. When we've done the Fest beer on here, their Oktoberfest for this year, which we thought was pretty decent, but I tried their bourbon, County Bourbon Imperial Stout. Wasn't too bad, but the problem is, I have a head cold. Still do. Head and chest cold. So my nose and chest have been kind of clogged up for a week now. So when I was drinking it, I couldn't really taste it. All I could really taste was that 15% alcohol. I had to kind of dip and duck, dip, dive, and dodge, and move my head around to kind of get a little bit of like my right side of my sinus clear to finally taste the stout itself, the actual kind of character and body of it. Like it did have like a nice chocolatey oak and vanilla and a hint of bourbon taste to it. And it's also, because it's an imperial stout, that the alcohol was really present on it. Like you could really, really taste it. Mm-hmm. And it's a very heavy beer to drink. It's very, very thick.
Yeah, I bet. Sounds good though.
It'd be a good, I was telling, because I was trying it with my sister, and I told her, because she's never had an imperial stout before. I told her it's basically like this is a dessert beer. You would sit down,
almost like a port wine.
After having like a steak, you would sit and drink this for 2 hours
with your cigar.
Yeah, no, you're right. Basically, if I had one, I would have. To kind of
to help wash it down.
But I didn't. So
interesting. So there you have it. A couple.
I would recommend it. It was worth from what
your
I was.
Recommendation isn't worth shit.
No, I know it is.
You couldn't taste it.
I know, but people do actually really like it.
Yeah, no, I bet it. I mean, it sounds good. It sounds interesting. I do hate having that cold like that because one time I ordered Chinese, and you know how you get a craving for Chinese, so I was trying to eat it, and I was like, I can't fucking taste this. It tastes like nothing.
It's terrible.
Horrible. I hate that.
I think people kind of forget how much, if you can't smell it, you can't taste.
Yeah. Yeah, I hate that feeling for sure.
And yeah, it'll probably take another week to get over this. I haven't been taking any medicine because fuck that. I don't need to be groggy for half the day.
Well, let's move right into the Evil Dead talk because I'm pretty excited about talking about it. I haven't seen it since I saw it in theaters, and that was 4 years ago. Even though I own it on Blu-ray, I haven't ever popped it in. So, and that's pretty much what happens to all my Blu-rays. Actually, is I never end up watching them.
Well, it's nice. It's just that it's
nice to have. That's right.
Yeah.
It's nice to own it and know you. Own
there
it.
are a couple movies I have that I've never bothered popping in. It's I like the movie. I've seen it 1,000 times. I just want it just in case. I'm like, hey,
it's nice to have.
Feel like watching this.
All right, so the film's directed by Fede Alvarez, who he has gone on to do a couple other films and has some pretty significant contributions to horror, like Don't Breathe. At the time, I believe that this was one of his early films.
It's his first film.
First film. So he had a lot to fill with this film. A lot of expectations riding on it, of course, because even though I wasn't super excited for an Evil Dead remake, I know a lot of people were. They wanted to see what they could do with this. And so Fede Alvarez had a lot on his plate, but I think that one of the things that really helped the Evil Dead remake was that they emphasized how scary and how bloody the film was going to be. So if you remember, there was a lot of talk about this is going to be the scariest film
that was their tagline.
Yeah, the tagline.
Which, by the way, that's a shitty tagline to have.
Yeah, I don't really like the taglines that are just promoting the film head on. That's a very explicit.
Not only that,
it's not really a tagline.
Not only that, it's pretty ballsy. So it's okay, you're saying you're going to beat The Exorcist. Proceed.
Yeah, I mean,
which, by the way the demon is portrayed in this, very like The Exorcist.
Sure, yeah, it is.
Wow, you said that very flippantly.
No,
you said that. You said that very. That's the word of the week for me, by the way. Flippant.
Because I didn't want to go into it at this time. Because
I know we don't have
finish our thought.
No, I know you don't have to, but you said that very
That's
yeah.
Sure, yeah, whatever. All right, moving on. No, I didn't want to get into it at this time because I know we'll get into it later. No, but I think that tagline of saying, this is the scariest movie that you'll see it helped with the publicity, obviously, because people were talking about that. They're saying and some people eat that up, right? So some people, moviegoers who aren't really, they're not super big horror fans. They haven't seen a lot of horror fans. They might actually believe, and when they see it, They might actually be scared, for
I
sure.
call bullshit, though. Like, any film, that'd be like, this is going to be the scariest, or like, this is going to be the most action. It's like bullshit.
Well, I do, too. I mean,
That's
I do
already
that.
that's already setting, like, expectations up, like, for... that's literally setting yourself up for failure. Like, because, again, this is a soft reboot. It's a remake, but at the same time, it's also a sequel to the original trilogy. A better tagline, and I'm no marketing genius, would be like, a better tagline would be, and it's generic, but it would be better, would be like, evil comes back again. Simple, sweet, to the point. It's not like, sure, it may not like be like the catchiest thing, but like, okay, you know what? You literally know what you're getting into. It's a soft, like, from that alone, okay, it's a soft reboot.
I understand what you're saying, because when you say the scariest movie you'll ever see, that tells you nothing about the film itself. In the tagline, you really want to be catchy and also tell you about the film a little bit. Or, like, give you some sense of what this is going to be about. Like you said, with Evil Returns, that it's going to be like a soft reboot, or what to expect.
That's a good one, too. Like, it's short, sweet, to the point. And, like, again, Evil Return. And not only that, Evil Dead, in the franchise itself, though a cult franchise... It's also, like, again, it's very well known.
Yeah.
Now it has a fucking Showtime show. People know, whether they've seen it or not, they know the franchise. They know Ashley Williams. They know Bruce Campbell. Everyone at this point knows who the fuck Sam Raimi is.
Right.
He
did Spider-Man movies, so they ought to.
Yeah, no, exactly. So it's...
Yeah,
he led the charge in, like, the Renaissance of comic, that brought in the new Renaissance of comic book movies. Whether you kind of want to admit it or not. I mean, I know, like, Blade and I think X-Men came before, but like Spider-Man was like the especially the fact that it was made a trilogy.
Oh yeah, that was a big thing.
Yeah,
at that time. I think let's start with the good things about Evil Dead. I think for one of the good things is that they don't try to take it back in time. They don't try to take it back into the 80s or even like the 90s from Army of Darkness. They don't try to go do a throwback like that. It's set in the actual time period.
You wouldn't know from fucking Kurt Cobain in this movie. That's true.
One of the characters does look like he's a direct throwback to like 1970s Amityville horror. Like, I'm gonna kill my family.
The rapey version of Kurt Cobain.
Yeah,
he's wearing those 70s like rape glasses that only like people in their 60s now buy it, like from the glasses store. Which, by the way, when are those going to make a comeback? Like Coke bottle, like the ones you're wearing right now, have like made the comeback.
Yeah, I don't know.
So maybe like next.
Maybe I'm just out of it, and they're already making.
No. I like those. I haven't bought a new pair of glasses in forever. That's why mine look like shit. But like, that's something I would get. But like, one of those like double barred, like, 70s, like rape that have now been like associated with like rapists. They're just kind of like Chevy Econo vans have been associated with like, hey, in trench coats have been associated with like rapists and child molesters. When are those glasses making the comeback?
We got to take them back. Got to take them back from the rapists. But I do like that about how they don't bring it back in time, so it's set in the present day. I like that because right then we know, okay, this is gonna be a soft remake, and none of the characters are the same at all. So it's very clear that though this is set in the Evil Dead universe, it's not really a remake or a reboot. It's almost more of like it has the feeling like it could be a sequel, or like this just is a continual process. Like this just keeps happening to people who stumble upon this cabin.
Well, it's not stumble upon, isn't it part of their family?
They know, yes. Are they
somehow related to like Ash?
Possibly. I think it's an open question that lingers, but I like that whole idea of like these people are just continually doomed to like do this whole thing. So like when we have Eric as a character in this film, he's that guy who you're saying like, you're doing a terribly stupid thing.
Yes.
You opened a book that's covered in barbed wire, that's been hidden downstairs in a room full of dead animals, and you brought it upstairs, you cut it open, you opened a book covered in skin, and then you read the information that was erased that had to be using a pencil etching to figure out what the words were. Terrible idea. And
by the way, why
read it to yourself.
By the way, why is he not like working for the CIA? Like the way he was able to deduce if I lay down a piece of paper and
Yeah. You can...
I never would have fucking thought to think of that, and I consider myself a halfway intelligent person. I never would have been like.
Well, I think that right there is you have a guy who's like. I know he's pretty smart.
I know he's technically interested in like witchcraft and the occult, but even still, like.
Well, then if you're interested, don't mess around.
You should, yeah. You're right. If you're interested, wouldn't you be like? Yeah, if I read this aloud, it's fine.
And basically read it to yourself. Like, who sits around and they're reading a book by themselves and they're just like, let me say these phrases aloud.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of times.
Yeah, that is a very stupid thing. But I think, like with The Evil Dead, in some ways, this film is a lot more serious than the original, The Evil Dead. Much more serious.
It's very deadpan.
Yeah, there's not really the comedic aspect that Sam Raimi had when doing The Evil Dead. And though I'm a big proponent of saying The Evil Dead is not, I wouldn't say that it's technically like all comedy. I do think that
no, I don't think
the first installment was very much meant to be a scarier.
No, I don't think it's a horror. I don't think it's a comedy horror at all. I think it's a horror film. I think Evil Dead 2. This is where I can see it's like literally is a sequel because it's literally picking right up at the end of Evil Dead, except it's the same shit happening again. That's a comedy horror because it's literally campy.
Yeah,
and it does have its scary, horror elements, but it's also comedic in the way how Ash interacts with the hand and stuff.
I would say with Evil Dead 2, that's when Sam Raimi knew what he was doing and why, and he almost wanted to mock what was done before in his own film.
I think the evil, like you said, I don't know why people I don't get the Evil Dead being a comedy horror. I don't think it is.
Yeah,
it's maybe just because it was done on a dog shit budget. They had no money.
I think some of it comes from just seeing the next films in it and Army of Darkness having such a overshadowing presence in the Evil Dead franchise. Is that then the original The Evil Dead kind of got roped into that as well? It was yeah,
but nobody go says Friday the 13th. That's a comedy horror because Jason Goes to Manhattan is a fucking comedy or the same thing Halloween, Halloween 5.
That's true.
It's a comedy horror, so
Yeah, it's an interesting how that kind of occurred, and I do see some of the goofiness in the Evil Dead. Some of the characters are goofy, and some of the things that happens are obviously not meant to be realistic. Like a tree rape is really not meant to be realistic in that sense.
But is that funny?
Yeah, apparently some people find it funny. I don't know. Apparently my wife finds it funny. I would say
that just because something's unintentionally funny doesn't mean it's
meant to be.
The Room is unintentionally funny because it's so bad. Does it mean it's a comedy? No, it's supposed to be a very serious drama. It just you just laugh throughout the entire film.
Yeah.
Same thing like Troll 2. Troll 2 is not a comedy horror film. It's literally supposed to be taken as a horror film.
What I meant to be saying with this though is that even though I do think that Evil Dead is a pretty serious film for the most part, I think Evil Dead is even more serious. It even takes itself more seriously, although it does like to push the boundary of what it can do. So, and this was one of the reasons why I was not a huge fan of the film when I first saw it, was because not only was it touted as the scariest movie you'll see, but it was also touted as one of the bloodiest as well. The goriest films, because it had so much of this practical effect of the blood, which it was not. It was very clear that it was not CGI blood, that it was actual blood, actual liquid form, rather than put in computer generated images. So I think that part of the problem that I had was that the Evil Dead pushes that so far that it almost kind of makes a mockery of when you have graphic content. Because here it seems like they're doing that on purpose, just to be shocking, just to be.
Yeah, but that at the same time fits the horror films of the day.
Yeah,
I mean, Saw may be gone, but torture porn still. I mean, this isn't a torture porn film, though. For poor Kurt Cobain in this, it gets the shit kicked out of him. You know.
Yeah.
I mean,
what I really think though is that it tries very hard to be shocking and to push the envelope, and I found that like a little bit off-putting because I wasn't into the whole like trying hard to capture that thing. So
I mean, at the same time, I agree, but like I said, like what are the Saw films?
Yeah,
what are like in Hostel and all that? It's literally like, how can we up the ante? How can this is where like the Saw films go from like the first film being like a really cool idea and innovative to like, oh, we've lost track of what the hell we're really supposed to be doing. Like it's all about how can we up the ante on the traps and the and the brutality.
I mean, I agree, and watching it now because we're really talking about the positives here. I do find that it's a lot more fun than I originally thought when I saw it, because I was kind of caught up in the whole like, well, they're just doing that to be edgy, they're just doing that. And now I kind of pushed that aside and I was just like, oh, that's actually pretty fun, And I kind of pushed aside too that my bias towards like, well, that's not realistic. She's not going to pull her arm off. She's not going to cut her arm off with a turkey carver. She'd pass out before that occurred.
See,
some of those things you kind of have to just take with a grain of salt and just say like, all of this is really outlandish and ridiculous, so just go with it.
See, I've had the exact opposite reaction.
Oh, okay. You mean from first seeing the film to now?
Yes. I think even when I first saw the film, I thought the practical effects in this were really good. I think it's great. I really enjoyed like it's like Mortal Kombat with the max blood settings on it. Yeah, it's stupid and ridiculous, and like some of the fatalities, like there's like, especially like MK3, and there's like 20 rib cages shooting out of people. Yeah, it's unrealistic and shit, but goddamn it, it's awesome, cool, and brutal. I still agree the effects in this movie and that over the topness with it is still good. However, when I first saw it in theaters, I thought like it was fun to kind of seeing that, like, oh, like especially like part where like the chainsaw at the end with Mia like and the demon like and carving the demon up like that. I still think that's really cool. But after watching the film overall, like the second time through, because this is my second time too, I haven't seen it since seeing it in theaters. Though I think the effects are well done and look great, the actual violence within it is it's not as fun for me. It's just like, eh. Mm-hmm. It's just
maybe you've hit fatigue mode now.
I'm just like, eh.
I think
it's not as exciting. Like watching again, like again, poor Kurt Cobain slipping on a bloodstain, cracking his back on a fucking toilet. Like the first time, it's like, what a dumbass, you know? That's ridiculous and stupid. Now it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like you said, I think that the effects are pretty good, and they're definitely a positive for Evil Dead. I think they did a good job. With most of them, I think watching now, some of them do pale a little bit in comparison to what we've seen lately. Obviously, I do appreciate the practical effect nature of it too, because that is a sticking point for me when it's just constant CGI.
And me, we've talked about that several times about practical versus CGI.
Yeah, I think probably one of the scenes that has not held up that well is the final one when she's chainsawing through.
I still think that looks cool, but I agree, it's totally ridiculous. But like I said, that's where it's like that for me is like, it is like a fun, like, because I love Mortal Kombat. That's like that's a fun, like, yeah, that's over the top and ridiculous and campy. It's not, like you got the blood shooting everywhere, and like it's raining blood at the same time. It's literally if this was 2002. Like Ghost Ship, they would have had Slayer's Raining Blood playing during that part, to kind of Like, it's really phone in what they're doing.
It's not the campiness. It's not the unrealistic nature of it, but it's that I just didn't think that the scene where you actually see the silhouette of her chainsawing through is that believable. Like, it doesn't look particularly real.
I mean,
it definitely looks like a dummy. I mean,
that's fine. I'd rather have a fucking dummy there than a CGI.
No, I agree.
Even if it's like literally, you can see like it's a straw puppet there, or whatever.
Yeah, I agree.
But
there's like straw flying everywhere. It's real. It's real.
I know, but at least like they tried. Yeah, I mean, if anything, the whole part of that thing is like her like, your turn, motherfucker. Like, that's like, you're not Ash. You'll never be Ash.
Yeah, I agree with that as well.
If anything, your character has shown nothing that would be like, oh, I have a witty one, you know.
That's also one of the things that I think, and we're supposed to be on positives, but negatives really come into play here as well. I think that's one of the things that doesn't work as well about this film is the script, because I think that a lot of it is trying to be funny in that witty way that, you know, Ash would deliver, or some of the Deadites from mostly Army of Darkness, really.
And not the original.
Not the original. Is more cribbing from Army of Darkness's Deadites that are much more like sardonic and, you know,
sarcastic,
goofy, and
not only that, but again, it's not like, as you've pointed out before, it's not like Ash from the first Evil Dead is a smart mouth, witty person.
Yeah, he's more of a quiet, reserved person.
Yeah, he's not like nothing from the first Evil Dead, like, except being, you know, the lone survivor at the end makes him like stand out to be, you know, like the person that he becomes in Army of Darkness. And in Evil Dead 2, because it's more campy, he does have like kind of a little bit more of a wit, you know, well, not a little bit. He does have a lot more wit to him than the original, but
misogyny.
But compared to Army of Darkness, it's like still pales in comparison.
Right. Yeah,
by the time Army of Darkness rolls around, he works. Which, by the way, what a great '90s Kmart, you know, the forgotten retailer of the '90s, like working at a Kmart clone in S-Mart, misogynistic, coward, and, you know, dumbass, and that we've all grown to love. Like, I think that's something a lot of people forget, is the Ash that we all love is from Army of Darkness.
Yeah, basically, yeah. And even the one that's ported over into Ash versus Evil Dead,
it's Army of Darkness.
Army of Darkness Ash.
It's Army of Darkness Ash. It's not.
One thing, you know, though, that I said, you know, I didn't think that works in the script as well, is that they make the Deadites into more of a comedic, sort of edgy.
I wouldn't even say comedic. Like I said, that's where I think where my whole Exorcist line comes from. It's more like they're trying to be like the demon from The Exorcist.
I think what bothers me about that, and it also bothers me about The Exorcist, is that the go-to for that sort of thing is that they just consistently are very, like, vulgar for whatever reason, in that, like, demons would understand that we were very offended by F words or something. You know what I mean?
But it's different for the 70s. I mean, I know, like, but especially in the mid 70s when Exorcist came out, like, more people are coming open to, you know.
Yeah, that was definitely different at that time. But
at the same time, though, like, again, people still, like, you can't, like, if you're working, like, as a professional in a job, you can't be running around saying, fuck, shit, piss, you know.
Yeah.
You can't. I mean, I don't, like,
I do it all the time.
I mean, I don't understand I mean, I don't understand the point of point of curse words, like, why is fuck considered such a bad word, or like piss and cunt, like, no, like,
right,
you know,
yeah, no,
there's no real rhyme or reason, like, at least in the etymology that I know, and that, like, to me, unless somebody one day enlightens me, like, on how those words are considered offensive, like, I can understand, like, how racial epithets are offensive because they have a certain meaning to them, you know.
Yeah.
That, you know, denounce another race. Fuck's just like a utility word.
Yeah.
It's
no, I like that is one thing that bothers me, is that it's kind of like the go-to. Like, there's nothing for the Deadites to say besides things that could be construed by regular people as vulgar. I think it's okay, but it doesn't really make me scared of them. it doesn't make me like
But at the same time,
particularly, you know.
but at the same time, if it's a demon and we consider those words curse words, that'd be something they'd be saying.
I guess. I mean,
because
if a demon did that to me, I'd be like, I'm unaffected by you. I say that shit all the time.
Yeah, because you're an impure spirit.
Right, yeah, I know.
So it's gonna be dragging you to hell. So yeah, you may be going fuck on the way down, but you're going to hell with the Deadite because your ears and tongue have been saying vulgar things.
That's true.
So
I'd be like unaffected.
in that sense, it makes sense. But I mean, that doesn't bother me because again, like it's not like. Like you said, it doesn't bother me because I don't think it's really that. That to me is not like a big deal. Like, because what else are you gonna have him say?
I don't know, just
especially like if our male lead in this, and I would call him a fucking board, David, played by
David the Board,
played by Shiloh Fernandez. You know, if his sister, which they have a close relationship, and it comes off as kind of uncomfortably close, at least to me.
I mean,
if he's like apparently so concerned and still apparently because he's stupid for one, and he's trying to save his sister, and she's yelling at him, "Come down here and suck my cock, pretty boy." He'd probably be like, "What are you doing?" That would be like a shock to him.
Well, I think that
because it took him literally forever to kind of grasp the situation.
Yeah, that is true.
Maybe it's a virus. Puking up Kool-Aid on like our friend, for like a good 10 seconds.
Ebola.
Yeah.
I do think that part of the script that is good though is that the film actually gives a reason for them to be at the cabin.
I don't like the reason they're there.
You don't?
I think it's stupid.
I mean, I think that. I mean, I don't think it's like it's not mind-blowing. It's not like, wow, that's something I've never thought of before as a slasher film. But I think that it gives a reason, and that's important because...
I don't say it's new. Like, it's a new idea. My sister and my friends with my sister's a junkie. So to get her to rehab herself, we're going to go camping in the middle of buttfuck nowhere.
Well, they don't want her to be anywhere near anybody else. Like, they want to have her isolated.
It's stupid. I think that's stupid.
Well, there are many ways that could go wrong.
He's a terrible brother, and they're terrible friends for thinking, like, to do that.
I mean, there's many ways, like...
What if she did sneak pills or, like,
I think
opioids and she OD'd? You're kind of fucked out there.
This is definitely a time when you have a person who's a nurse who thinks they know everything about medical schooling because they're a nurse. And so she decides that she's going to take on this giant burden that even regular doctors wouldn't take on because they don't have the schooling specifically for opioid addiction and how to go through a withdrawal successfully. So she's going to take it on herself in an abandoned cabin. So there's a lot of ways this can go wrong. I mean, she could vomit and choke on it and die. She could do something ridiculous in her hallucinations. So many things there that could go wrong. And now you're isolated. You're away from civilization. Who knows how far the nearest hospital is? Not a good idea. You're right. But
I'd rather than just be teenagers there to go there to drink and fucking smoke pot. That to me is a better explanation.
No, even though they're stupid though, it at least gives a reason why they're not like just readily leaving. Because a lot of the scenarios in horror films is when they're at a place and they could just easily leave and be like, "Nope, I'm out of here. I'm done with this." And then yet they don't. For no reason, they just don't leave. So this at least gives them a reason to not leave. And I like that. I think that's a solid thing. And it's also symbolic of Mia's like an inability to beat her demons, right? Because her addiction is her demon, and then you have a literal manifestation of those demons, and then she wins. So effectively, at the end
went. Her brother and her friends are dead now.
Yeah, but she's not addicted anymore. So maybe two problems, but one solved.
I was saying, I got news for you. When she finally makes it back to town, and people realize her hand's gone. she's getting thrown in an ambulance, put into an emergency room, and someone's slapping her up with some morphine.
Well, that's
And then
that's true. That's true.
And she's gonna be like, oh yeah.
You know what? No, I think at this point she's gonna say, please no morphine. she's gonna politely refuse.
I'll take some ibuprofen.
I'm a recovering addict. I can't use that, even though my arm is on fire. No, and the other thing too is it's kind of funny because Ash vs. Evil Dead is actually done an episode about that where Ash returns from the cabin. He's the only one to return, and everybody calls him Ashy Slashy because they think he killed everybody. And so you said that a little bit, like when, you know, after she gets away and she's like missing an arm and everything, like what are people going to think? No one else returns with her. And no one else knows what happened there. So they're just going to think she killed everybody. And that's actually an episode of Ash vs. Evil Dead. So it's kind of interesting. But let's talk about something that I don't really like in this film. And that's the Deadites, the portrayal of the Deadites, how they look. I'm not a huge fan of that. I'm not a huge fan of how they're kind of made into like I would say like 28 Days Later style.
I was gonna say like ring demons.
Ring demons?
Like the girl from The Ring.
Yeah, kind of like stringy hair, sort of like wet,
and you know.
I mean,
literally looks like the Mia's Deadite, and this literally looks like she crawled out of the TV yelling 7 days.
Yeah, my biggest complaint comes from like the actual face and the eyes of the Deadites. I
jaundiced look.
I just don't like that look that much. I don't think that it's really reminiscent of a Deadite from The Evil Dead. I think they tried to copy that formula, but I don't really think they got it right. They didn't.
They didn't have a low enough budget.
And like that's the other thing about it is that I don't like how they treat some of them when they're actually like running around and stuff. They're not really running, but they're more like I guess what you said, like a ring sort of thing, where they're kind of just like shambling after them, kind of crawling after them, like twitching,
like kind of like we talked about in House on Haunted Hill. The whole but it's not like that ridiculous of like the fast paced like flash vibrating, you know, through time and space. I'm
not a huge fan of that. I don't like what they did with the Deadites. I don't think it's particularly effective, especially when you have like the close up shots of them. I do really like what the Evil Dead does with the makeup. Especially when you have like the Deadite that's under the cabin that's in the basement, peeking out through the. I mean, that's a very iconic shot, and I think that's a very effective scene in terms of just overall creepiness of it. And they do try to replicate that a little bit in Evil Dead, but I don't think they really captured the feeling of a Deadite like the Evil Dead did. And then actually, you know, post Evil Dead is Ash vs. Evil Dead, which really captures pretty much the epitome of what I think of as a Deadite. I mean, I don't know how you feel about the Deadites in this, but I see them more as like zombies almost than like the Deadites of the Evil Dead, which we don't even really get an explanation of how they work or anything like that. It's kind of just like a very undefined.
I also find it kind of weird they don't call it the Necronomicon in this.
Yeah, it's they refer to it as like the Nostrum something.
Demento.
Yeah, Demento or something like that. So, I mean, maybe there's like some rights issue with calling it Necronomicon. I don't know. But I mean, it was produced.
I think they both. I mean, pretty sure they both translate to Book of the Dead, but I mean,
right.
I can't remember. Is it a Sumer? Because they say it's Sumerian in this.
Yeah.
Is it? I can't remember if it is in the original or not.
Well, I think it's Kandarian. So
maybe I don't know.
But I don't know. I don't. Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know. Why change that? Why change the reading of the words? Why change the book itself? Not sure. Maybe it's supposed to be like an alternative.
Maybe there's several books of the dead.
That could be. That would be an interesting scenario.
And different, maybe in like different universes, and maybe that's how. Maybe Ash versus Evil Dead will turn into like Ash has got to jump through different, universes and different parallel universes to fight Deadites. That could go on forever, like The Walking Dead. Then just have Bruce Campbell jump. quantum leaping his way around.
I like the idea of multiple books of the dead and just like they've been placed in particular areas to like
haunt and
be the most inviting for people. I like that. That's a good idea. They should pursue that a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, some of the things have been changed a lot, but then we also see a lot of homages to the Evil Dead, like especially in the shots that Fede Alvarez chooses. Some of the zoom shots of like through the forest, right straight out of the Evil Dead. Like with the whole tree rape scene, done a little bit differently, but still very reminiscent of how it's done in both the Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, because they use the same techniques in both of those films. So I think like some of those zoom shots from the POV perspective, they work pretty well. I think they capture those well. But the ones that
I think people would be offended if they didn't at least try.
Yeah, exactly.
You'd be, because again, very iconic.
I think the ones that they don't get right are the quick cut edits of like things being done, like chaining up the basement door, or like grabbing
the battery and the chains.
battery. Those you can tell are inspired by the Evil Dead, but
more Army of Darkness though too.
But in Army of Darkness, but they don't get it quite right. Just in the way that it's edited, it's not quite right. And I don't know if that was a stylistic choice where Fede Alvarez was saying, like, I don't want to exactly mimic Sam Raimi. At the same time, I feel like the better option would be to just mimic it. Yeah, exactly. And just mimic it and get it right. Because now, and obviously this was not a thought back in 2013, but now, with Ash vs. Evil Dead, watching that show, they get that, those edits and those zooms exactly right. I mean, it's spot on.
Now I wonder if that has. I don't know if this is the case, but I think almost maybe Sam Raimi has more involvement in that Ash versus Evil Dead.
I would say probably. I mean, a lot of it, like his brother and stuff like that is pretty involved in it. So
because he hasn't he directed episodes and stuff.
Yeah, so there's probably more involvement. I'm sure, but I would still think that Fede Alvarez would want to, and his cinematographer and stuff would want to put in the effort to try to get it exactly right.
But I mean, it could be because it's his first film. He could be like, I want make it kind of putting his own stamp on it. Yeah, so
I could see that. I think I just prefer it to be more in line with what Raimi did in the original.
Which now that I think about it, if I was like a first time director, I don't think I'd ever want to tackle a remake. I'd want to develop my own style and sense,
I mean, it's almost
and have, because if you're doing like an original film, you're going to be able to develop your own sense and style. If your first film's a remake, you're kind of going to be chained and beholden to at least doing certain things very similar. They can be different, but similar enough to the original to where it's people are going to, like in this case. Mm-hmm. And I think that
Yeah, it's almost like a band that releases their first album and is just cover songs, and you're like, okay, like
it's good. But
they did good covers, but like, are they a good band? They didn't write any of these songs. They were blueprints, so they did a good job. But I don't really know if I want to check back in with them with an original sound, because I don't know what that is. I don't know what their sound is. So. Yeah, it's interesting to that Fede Alvarez decided that he was going to release a remake of Evil Dead as his first film.
Probably just got hired for it. And I mean, if it probably said, sure, why the hell not?
Yeah. I
can't imagine. Even if I was put in that situation, I'd probably say, yeah. Even though like you may be restricted creatively, you might be like, if I say no, I might not get another job.
I don't know.
And not only that, this kind of being like it's a big name remake. You might as well. I'd be like, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I would though, because I think of it in terms of like something like, say I was a writer, really, breaking out onto the scene for comics, and someone said, I think you have some good stuff, and I'd like you to write the new Superman series that we've got going on. I wouldn't take it, because there's way too much baggage of doing it wrong there. Because you have so many like people that are so enthusiastic and think they have the perfect idealization of what a Superman comic would be. So you taking that on is a lose-lose. Because if you do your own thing, it may be good, but people aren't going to like it because they have their own idea of what Superman should be like.
At the same time though, like say like if I was put in that spot too, if I was like if there was something that I was really enthused about and really liked, like say if I was writing like my own like Batman, like I got like all right, we're gonna have you do the new Batman thing, you do that, or like hey, we want you to direct the new like Gundam show or whatever. I'd be great, love it. I would do it to like what I think it should be. And if people don't like that, who are, again, massive fan base, I'd be like, tough shit. This is what I wanted to do.
Yeah. However,
if it goes over like a fart in church, oh well, this is what I like. These are the things I think are and that might fuck me.
Right. That could ruin your career because you had a bad time on.
But at least I got to do it.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I can see from both sides.
No, you're right. That would be a very hard thing, and I would be. I would have I'd literally probably have to flip a coin. Like, do I really want to do this or not? But at the same time, if I was going to do it, and if it was something I like, because he very well, from watching this film, it doesn't seem like he doesn't know the franchise.
Yeah.
From watching this, it seems like he probably has a love for the franchise. So, if it was something that I really loved. And even if it had like a rabid and major fan base, if I did it the way that I, as someone being a fan of that franchise too, did it the way I want it, like again, like if I were to be like hired as like, hey, we want you to write and direct the new Lupin the Third TV show, I would know exactly how I want it to go. I can guarantee you, would go over probably not that well. Because I'm a big fan of the Green Jacket series. Mm-hmm. And it's especially those first like 10 episodes where it's more pulpy and noir and gritty.
Right, so you wouldn't cater to the new fans.
And I mean, I know the newer shows are going like that, but it wouldn't be as, there'd be comedic elements, but it wouldn't be, as like more like Red Jacket. And even though I love also love Red Jacket Lupin, where it's got that great balance between action and comedy, it wouldn't be be nearly as lighthearted. That's why like for me, but when it comes to like Lupin, a lot of people love the Castle of Cagliostro because it's made by Miyazaki and it has that Miyazaki whim to it, like those later Green Jacket episodes that he directed. But to me, and though I think it's technically a better made film than, like, say, The Secret of Mamo, I think Mamo's a better film because it's much more like the manga and Green Jacket. It's much more in line and in tone with that, and that's kind of how I like that.
Right.
No,
I understand. But Fede Alvarez, I think it was a risky venture, but I don't think he, suffered from it. And obviously he went on to do Don't Breathe, which I actually thought was a really great film, even though, I don't think that Evil Dead particularly is an astounding film. I think he did at least a commendable job on it, and then went on to do something even better. So I've led the conversation quite a bit here, but do you have stuff that you want to talk about that we haven't touched on yet?
Yeah. Acting.
Okay.
It's fucking awful.
I mean, I gotta say, I like Jane Levy. I think she does a pretty good job as Mia. I think some of her facial expressions could use a little bit of work, and that may be part of the direction as well. So I don't really know, but other than that, I think she does a pretty good job. So who are you thinking of specifically? I mean, I think Shiloh Fernandez.
Fernandez is the biggest culprit in this.
Right? Yeah,
he's a total fucking wooden board in this. Like nothing. Like what's going on? I got shrapnel in my arm. Ugh. I mean, I think Jane Levy's alright as Mia. But again, the fact that she's playing, a withdrawing junkie, I don't think the idea, that premise of why they're in the cabin's a good one to begin with, so I don't really care for her character. And, the fact that she's just supposed to, be running around acting crazy. I think when she's playing, the Deadite, I think that's, as the Deadite incarnation, I think that's much better. But when she's just plain old me, I don't. It's you're very stereotypical, especially with her interaction with David, her brother, just being the whole stereotypical, way over the top, Seventh Heaven, we're brothers and sisters, and we have such a deep connection. I hate that shit. And then their friends in this are literally just there. They have nothing outstanding or remarkable or noteworthy about them.
Yeah.
Like the only one that I remember is like, you know, Eric, because he looks like, again, it looks like why is he your friend? I can't remember what movie we watched recently. We're like, who? Like this guy looks like he's totally out of place. And I think that's for 90s slasher month. Like group of friends. I can't remember if it was like Urban Legend or whatever.
With like a
one of the friends being like, why are you here? You don't look like you belong. Like, kind of like in Saved by the Bell. Why are those kids friends with Screech? It makes no sense.
Well, I'll tell you what, this guy reminds me of the guy from Cabin Fever. Except this guy's a lot nicer than in the one in Cabin Fever.
But I mean, like overall, it's just like, no one in this... I mean, granted, I don't think... None of these people have depth in their character. They're literally just here to be can fodder.
Yeah,
except for Mia.
I think like people like Natalie, who is the blonde girl in this, and David's girlfriend. She's totally pointless. Just there to be shot at with nails, and
she's can fodder,
ripped around and stuff like. Yeah, there's nothing there that really makes her even a person at all. I mean, she's really not a part of the plot whatsoever. I mean, just besides being a Deadite. And then even there, she has more character than she does as an actual human being. And Olivia is like the nurse girl who's trying to take care of Mia. And really, I mean, that's pretty much all of her roles as well. I think she has a stronger role than Natalie, obviously.
But still, it's very minimal.
Yeah.
And I think overall, the performances from them are just terribly wooden and boring and bland and just not well portrayed at all.
Like you said, it works for like when they're a Deadite, but not so much when they're actually a person.
Yeah.
I think like with Eric though, you do feel for him.
He gets because again he gets the shit kicked out of him.
Yeah.
Like if I were rather be like Olivia and like carve my face up with like a piece of glass or cut my arm off with a turkey carver.
Even at that point, she's already a Deadite. She just got puked on and became a Deadite. So she's not really experiencing
the pain
as we know it, I guess, unless she's living in some sort of hell because of Deadite possessor. I don't know how that works, but like with Eric, he's alive and feeling all of this, getting shot by like 1,200 nails.
Head smashed in with a crowbar.
Yep. Smashed his hand in half with a crowbar. Yeah.
Which again, by the way, people, if you're gonna get hit with a crowbar, don't fucking put your hand and arm up. It's all bone.
I would say
tense up, and get hit in the ribs.
Yeah. Tense up, get hit.
It's gonna suck. Especially if they break some ribs, which more than likely you will. You're gonna have a hard time breathing.
Well, putting your arm out too is you're never gonna be able to stop them from hitting you
unless you're
because
got Bruce Lee reflexes.
At least if they hit your ribs, then you can like come down with your arm and try to grab the crowbar. But if you got your hand out, they're just gonna smack your hand. That's it. And then you're not gonna grab anything, which was one of the issues I had as David picks up a shotgun after getting his arm smashed like 3 times with a crowbar. I don't think he'd be picking up anything. I think his arm would be pretty shattered, but he's apparently fine.
Not only that, the kick on that thing. It's not.
Oh yeah, that's true too. Yeah,
not like popping off a double barrel 12 gauge. Just just be. It's not GoldenEye. We're just walking around, single handed,
As you told me, it's not meant to be realistic.
No, I know, but it's...
Someone can't just pull their arm off as it's been crushed by a car. So, I get it. I can't take this as seriously as I'd like to.
It's still fun, though.
It is fun.
It's... Another thing. Soundtrack.
Swelling violins.
Fucking annoying. It's constant throughout. There's, no room to breathe in this movie.
Someone put out a Craigslist ad for a bunch of people that had violins. Just show up. And then they all did, and they're like, all right, play the E string. Play the play the D string. All right, play a C. And then that's it for the entire...
Literally, the entire film is just, there's a score throughout this entire film, and it's so unnecessary. Like every little thing, just like violin stings and like, very like just very generic, stereotypical, like horror music of just like swelling, swirling violins and sliding and and the fact that again it's set throughout the entire film. There's like no like even like the character would be just sitting there taking a shit and they're like
Well, that might be a tense moment, I guess. Will it or won't it come out?
It's very annoying. And
how about all the bodily fluids in this film? There are a lot of them.
You're only missing fucking cum in this.
No, there's no shit in this.
How do you know?
I guess I didn't notice it, didn't see it, but we do get vomit, we get pee, blood, lots of blood. So pretty much everything else. What about that pee scene? You think it called for that? Do we really need to see her piss all over her leg? It even steams. I didn't notice this in the theater, but when she pees and it's sitting on the floor, there's a little bit of steam. Fede Alvarez, I gotta say, though I don't really think it was necessary, I at least appreciate the attention to detail. It's like, well, that was a warm pee.
I mean, well, to be fair, do we really need to see a fucking black demon thing go up someone's snatch?
No, but that's fun. I do like Jane Levy's reaction to that because it's sort of like a she sees it, she's very upset about this happening, and all of a sudden it's like a woo, kind of a not only is she surprised, but also a little something else too. That is, I think, even more. It goes even above like what the Evil Dead did, because that was more implied. You kind of have this tree that we see snaking towards her, but it's more implied.
Here you see the black thing go right up her skirt,
right up there.
Not you don't really see her vagina, but
the hoo ha.
Yeah, hoo ha. Al Pacino,
yes.
Son of a Woman.
And see, when I saw this too, I was watching Suburgatory, which was on ABC. It was like a sitcom on ABC that starred Jane Levy as well. And she was supposed to be like a 16-year-old student in that. So it was very jarring to see this this crackhead girl having
I think she's a heroin addict.
Or heroin addict, whatever it is. Having a whatever, like a tongue thing slip up her vagina. It's very disconcerting.
Did you like when the deadite like cut her tongue and split it in half? Like,
yeah,
and I was like, looking at her, like going at it,
Oh yeah, she was ready to do some licking.
It's like I said, it's like very Exorcist-y.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
not like that. Not that I'm saying it's bad, because The Exorcist is a great film,
but it's just different than the deadites of
the original.
The original The Evil Dead.
Yeah.
What else? Anything else? Or have we mostly...
I think we've tackled it.
I think we tackled it. So we got to give a rating on a scale of...
Oh, I know.
Okay, go for it.
Out of 1 to 10 groovies.
Okay.
What do you give Evil Dead? And when I say... Not only am I thinking of Ash when I say groovy, I'm also thinking of Earthworm Jim.
Who was
probably
inspired by Ash in some way.
Let's say for all you 90s kids out there.
I would give Evil Dead, and this is a judgment based on my viewing now and not like my past history with it.
Well, seeing as we're reviewing it now, not then.
Yeah. I'd give it a 7. Because I do think that it does some things right. I do like the practical effects. I think that, as I said, I like the storyline. I think it works and has a symbolic undertone to it, which may be too explicit.
I didn't say I didn't like the story. I said I don't like the setup.
The setup for it.
Two different things. Come on, Mr. Writing Man.
I do like some of the effects, and I think Jane Levy is pretty good as Mia, especially in Deadite mode. However, I don't like some of the script. I don't like what they did with the Deadites. I don't think it's as effective. It's overall not very scary, considering this is the scariest movie you'll ever see. And I don't like how over the top and intentionally edgy some of the like violence and dialogue is. So it gets a 7 out of 10 because I still think it's fun. I think it's more fun than the previous time that I saw it.
Fun for the whole family.
And I will say that despite this film being like 90 minutes, it doesn't really let up. So it's
pretty quick.
It's pretty quick paced throughout the whole thing. Like they're finding the book and
things are picking up within 20 minutes.
Right, exactly. I think that it's pretty good. And I think the exposition deliveries, like with the dialogue, help that. So in a way, I can't really fault them for like trying to deliver exposition and dialogue like that, as long as it gets things moving. So I think that's a positive note for the film. But other than that, I like that it's an homage to The Evil Dead, but I don't think that it really comes as close as Fede Alvarez would like it to or would have liked his audience to think it comes as close to The Evil Dead. And now, with Ash vs. Evil Dead out, it does pale in comparison to that new chapter in the Evil Dead franchise. So, to you.
In another rare occurrence, this is like the third week in a row. Get the same rating for it. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 too. Though I don't enjoy it as much as the first time I saw it, I still think I kind of gave it like I'm pretty sure I like leaving the theater. I'd probably say it was like a 7 out of 10 too. I still think it's one of the better remakes, not just of a horror film, but in general out there. If you're a fan of the Evil Dead franchise, you're not going to leave this film offended. There's nothing really about it to me that, as a fan of the Evil Dead franchise, I sit here and go like, that offends me. I mean, it's literally the same plot as the original. The difference is they're not teens there to have, do your stereotypical horror thing, sex, drugs, and weed. They're there to treat their heroin addict friend. Which again, I don't like the setup just because I think that's a fucking just stupid idea.
Yeah.
Even though when I first saw it, I didn't think the acting was great, and I think it's even like watching it now, it's even worse. Like, yeah, I think Mia's okay, but everybody else, especially Shiloh Fernandez as David, is incredibly bad. I still think the effects in this are very good, and I really appreciate the fact that even though over the top, they went the practical route, and it's a much better film for it. Because if it was over the top and they had all that CGI in it, it would look absolutely miserable. I still think, even though this film is deadpan compared to the rest of the franchise, I still think it's a lot of fun. You're exactly right. This film is pretty relentless. At 93 minutes, it only takes 20 minutes, and then you're off to the races, and it's off and going into a whole dealing with the Deadites. Mm-hmm. I don't really have as much of a problem with you with how the Deadites are portrayed, because like I said, is honestly, I think 20, the way things are today, that's how you're gonna go about it. Make them, just curse and say, dirty sexual things because that's what you do. I don't think it's a good and I don't think it's a bad thing. It's just something like I accept it for what it is on that part. Mm-hmm. I think it's it's not a bad film. I think it's an enjoyable watch. The fact Bruce Campbell shows up at the fucking end credits, that's partially, that's like a point rating alone on this film for me. He has no reason to cameo at the end and say groovy like that, other than the fact that maybe he was witnessing all this happening.
Doesn't give an explanation.
No, it doesn't at all. And like I said, I don't need one. I think that'd be cool, like in a sequel, like if they do like Army of Darkness 2, which is supposed to sometime in the future come out. Who the hell knows if that's ever going to happen now with Ash vs. Evil Dead? But it would be cool to, if the sequel to this picks up right after this, and it's like Ash dealing with like the aftermath of this shithole, and like maybe teaming up with Mia or something.
It'll be fun.
Like I said, I think it's a pretty good film. And I appreciate the homages they do to it, and even though it takes itself very seriously, I still think it, with some of the violence in this film, it's still a fun film.
Yeah. All right, so next up, because next week is Friday the 13th week, we've got Friday the 13th, the remake. I believe that's a 2009 remake.
That literally feels like that was yesterday that they announced that.
The remake itself, they announced. Yep, 2009 film. This one I am not a fan of.
Have not
at
seen, because I was smart. After being burned by a certain other big remake, I said hell no to anything at the time coming out. I think it probably took until Evil Dead came out for me to be like, all right, I'll go see.
Well, this one I have seen a couple times. I don't really like it at all.
Well, don't fucking blow your load here now.
No, I'm interested to see, because it's been a while since I've seen it last, so I'm interested to see how I feel about it, and if my taste has changed, and maybe I enjoy it now. So we'll see. I mean, since I've seen Friday the 13th, 2009, I saw Jason X, so it doesn't get much worse than that. That's a dismal viewing experience, so perhaps I can find the silver lining in the Friday the 13th remake. Who knows? So thank you for listening. We will be back next week with the Friday the 13th remake. You can catch us on iTunes and Stitcher and any other podcasting app that you use. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/bloodandblackrumpodcast. You can also find us on Twitter @bloodandblackrum. We are on Patreon, where you can donate to us, and it's a monthly subscription, so whatever you donate, you will be paying that each month, so don't overdraw on your account. That's patreon.com/bloodandblackrumpodcast. You can check us out on our website, bloodandblackrumpodcast.wordpress.com. If you have any suggestions or films you want to see us cover in the future after Halloween, you can write to us at bloodandblackrumpodcast@gmail.com. Also check out cultsploitation.com, where we're hosted for a podcast network, and if you're interested, let us know so you can join up on our podcast network. Thank you for listening. We'll be back next week with our Friday the 13th special for Remakeoween. And then from then on, it's off to the races as we cover a couple more remakes and have an extra special Halloween episode in store for you on Halloween. So definitely check back with us each week as we continue on towards Halloween with our Remakeoween series. All right. We'll see you next week.
Take care.